Okay, one thing you typically want to do when you're working with JPA entities is to set an equals and hash code method, because Hibernate is going to use this internally to determine object equity. And it's kind of important to implement it because there's a couple different strategies you can use. Some people like to use just the ID property. Others like to use the properties of the entire class to determine equity. And the right answer really depends on your use case. So in this video, I'm going to show you just using the ID property, and we're going to say if two entities have the same ID, for Hibernate to consider them equal entities. Again, depending on your use case, you might want to have a different strategy there. We'll explore this further later in the course, but for now I'm just going to use the ID property. And what we can do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to hit some enters there to get that off the bottom of the screen. And I can come in, and on a Mac keyboard, I'm using Command N to bring this up. And I'm going to come up and select equals and hash code. And here I'm just going to select the IntelliJ default. Do have a couple of others there. For our purposes, I am going to use the default of IntelliJ. And I want to unselect the other properties and say that, and just the ID property as well. And that could be null. Initially, on the initial object creation, that could be null, so I'm going to leave that like so. And here, let me scroll this up. You can see this is the code determining equals and hash code for this entity. And I'm going to go over to the book entity and do the exact same thing. Scroll down to the bottom here, and add some white space at the bottom. And coming in, equals and hash code. And again, I'm just doing the ID property. And again, this could change depending on your use case. And go ahead and create that. So now I've implemented the equals and hash code. And while we're here, another thing that you can do with IntelliJ, I'm going to come back over to the author. And this is just a nice thing to do for your entities. If you do a toString on this, you're just going to get the default implementation. Again, you can use Command N. And I'm going to implement a toString method. And let's take all the properties in this case. Let's say that. And now you can see here we get almost, not quite JSON, but you do get the output here. So you'll get a nice string output showing the entity name and then each property and the value of the property. So that's a nice implementation if you ever have to do a toString on that. So let me come over to book, and again, I'm going to come in, same Command N, toString. I'm just going to take all the properties like so, and there we have our toString implementation. So that looks nice. So I'll go ahead and commit this into GitHub, and again, we are implementing the equals and hash code, and this is for Hibernate to determine if two objects are the same object or not.